Howdy, folks. We're here to discuss kind of a Song of Ice and Fire post-mortem, though we did have a bit of a background chat. I was actually, there's a lot of cool, there's an interesting kind of discussion going on. I don't know if I'm not going to like spoil things, but I've just been working on a little project that involves the dissolution of the Iron Throne, and it brought up some interesting talking points of are the Targaryens good for Westeros and all that, and I think it's an interesting point of discussion.
We're live.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, we're inevitably going to talk about these things because part of, I think, Martin's problem is that he can't even contemplate these questions. Well, maybe that's too harsh. But he's definitely having trouble with these kind of questions.
Yeah. Since he kind of seems like he's in love with Jaehaerys and doesn't understand that Jaehaerys is not a good king.
Jaehaerys, you read my mind, man. Like, if you want to go, ooh. So I wanted to begin this conversation actually with. So I'm actually I'm a frequenter of the subreddit, the Song of Ice and Fire subreddit, and I want to begin, and I'm pretty active there. But I want to begin with someone else's quote, and I'm mad I did not nominate this for like post of the year because it didn't get a whole lot of votes. But I thought it was an incredibly good piece of criticism of A Song of Ice and Fire, and I think and if you'll indulge me a moment, I'll read it. So this is a quote by, this is a comment by, and I'll give credit here, by user A_participant. And it goes, setting aside whether George owes anyone anything, it is completely fair for readers to reevaluate his work based on the lack of ending. A Song of Ice and Fire seemed like one of the greatest works ever when it was being written, partially because all the moving parts of the story and the multiple phases of the story, War of the Five Kings, into the Second Dance of the Dragons, and into the battle against the others, all wove together, right? Now, almost 30 years since the first book, it's obvious that George could not stitch all the threads together. He clearly didn't plan out enough of the series. So it at first looked like the beautiful complexity of a brilliant interwoven saga of wonderful characters is now being seen as something else. A Song of Ice and Fire is an incomplete, half-baked, poorly planned story with excellent characters and mediocre world building. Can't agree with that enough. Written with beautiful prose. There is much to enjoy reading the books, but they don't work as a series, and George lacks the talent and/or temperament to be a fantasy series author. So people are now rightly adjusting their view of George in A Song of Ice and Fire.
Would you mind sharing your screen?
No, I'm not sharing your screen. Wait, what?
Would you mind sharing your screen? Is what I mean. Or providing me the link so I can so that I can show the chat the quote that you're working off of, because this seems like it's fairly dense, and I think that people should take a look at it so that they can peruse it.
Yeah, I think what I heard, it seems pretty sound, because what I was hearing was it has beautiful prose, it has excellent characterization. However, the fact that he was not able to complete it means that he's essentially, we have to reevaluate our general view of him. Our evaluation of him has to be, we have to reevaluate his merit as an author.
No, that's the thing, right? Like that's the insight I thought that was really powerful here. Like part of the reason A Song of Ice, part of the reason the series seems so good while you're reading it is that you think it's building to something like perfect. It feels coherent, or you think it's going to be coherent, and then you realize it ain't, right? And it's like, wait a second. There's actually a lot of BS here. There's actually a lot of.
So the link is okay.
Link.
Okay, let me just.
If you want, I know it's a very dense quote.
No,
I can read it very quickly, but.
No, I think so it's the A participant thing. This one.
Yeah, and again, full credit to this guy. I thought this guy actually, the guy right that first comment right there. That's me.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that. Thank you. Now that people can take a look at it and kind of be able to see what we're talking about. Keep going. Sorry. I apologize.
It's just no. This is kind of like where, to me, like the criticism begins, right? Because it's like it's not that like the things in the story aren't interesting. It's that the coherence that was assumed to be there was not there, right?
There's kind of the Preston Jacobs has this where he originally thought that there's looking at the like everything with Dorn and saying that it doesn't make sense, and he tried to make sense of it and then realized, you know what, George actually doesn't really have a plan for this.
No,
this is kind of just him kind of throwing stuff at the wall because he's bored with the story that he's writing and needs to use new characters in order to break himself out of his writing block.
And the thing is, like, I think Dorn I can see ways these things could work. I actually think Dorn, the main part of Dorn, weaves more seamlessly into the story than Euron, and I love Euron, but Dorn,
he's very much a like thrown in brand new character who has absolutely no reason to be there and is just kind of this abrupt warlock, crazy warlock.
I love Euron. I can talk for a long time about how good I think Euron actually is, and the place I think he can fit correctly into the story. But he is abrupt. He is abrupt. Like, that is true.
At least Euron is related to one of the relatively main characters of the series, though, whereas none of the Dorn characters is related to anybody.
Well, they're related to Elia Mortel. That's why I was saying that Dorn actually slots in correctly. Well, they're related to. So this is the thing, right? Dorn works for the same reason. Massive spoiler for anyone. This is going to be a full spoiler discussion. Dorn worked for the same reason Aegon the Sixth works, right? They're all part of Varys's plan, right? They work in that sense. The thing in Dorn that does not work, which is bullshit, is the stuff about Darkstar, and that's not because he's cringy and edgy and weird. It's because he runs away, and there's like this whole subplot about Balin Swan having to hunt him down, but really he's trying to assassinate Prince Doran or something. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, that's shit that doesn't work in Dorn. The Martells being part of a Targaryen restoration so that they can go back to being the second family of the realm, that makes sense. Like, that tracks. Right? And so they're getting wrapped up in Varys's whole, like, utopian perfect prince plan. Like, that's, that all coheres, actually, in my mind. It's a little bloated. I'm not going to say it's not bloated, but the overall beats work, right? Whereas Euron, is literally trying to hijack the story, which is part of why he works for me, but that's a different matter entirely.
Yeah, but the whole problem, the thing with the Ironborn and Dorn plots is, if Gurm had been able to integrate them into the story and complete the story, or at least continue the story moving in some direction towards completion, if he'd be able to do that, then expanding the world like this would make it this the great epic, would give it an epic sweep, and would just be awe-inspiring. But he wasn't. Unfortunately, it seems like he was not able to do that. So that it would have been better. Might have been better for the story if he just left them out.
Maybe. I mean, I think it's a little deeper. I think the problems facing Martin are a little deeper. And I have made actually a lot of comments about this. Again, I don't want to just reference her. I'm not going to read Reddit comments for this whole thing. But my theory is that Martin. So what is the central thesis of A Song of Ice and Fire? Like, what is the story about? Like, what's the premise of the story? Right. The premise of the story is that there is this impending invasion of these evil ice demons, and there is some sort of conflict within the realm that is distracting all of the characters from it, right? And in this mode, we are supposed to hold the political, and we can broadly say this, that there is a magical plot and there is a political plot. And in this mode of thinking, we're supposed to hold the political plot in almost in contempt. We're supposed to take the scene in the House of the Undying when there's the 5 dwarves and they're all raping the beautiful woman, we're supposed to take that at face value. And we are supposed to reduce the actions of the actions of like the political leaders to something like totally not worth doing in the face of, again, the apocalypse. The problem is that that's not the story that Martin wrote. Martin wrote a story where a political crisis sort of unveils the heart of darkness within the soul of man, and it becomes this existential struggle for the soul of human the soul of human endeavor, right? And I want to make it very clear. I think the Lannisters are evil, like rotten to the core.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tyrion is an emerging supervillain, as Constantine James puts it, and I'm like, that's that good.
No, he's good. He's bad. The Lannisters are like Martin. Like, there's a thread, and you can find not a thread, but a thread of thought. There's you can find countless comments on Reddit and elsewhere about how these people are idiots fighting over an iron chair, when the story that is presented to us is the most justified dynastic conflict possibly conceived of, right? The Lannisters are illegitimate, they're liars, they're tyrannical, they're disorderly, they're if anything, Martin has done the opposite of everything he claimed he was going to do, and everything his the most midwit people that watch the series think. It's he actually is showing how bad people can't be good rulers. And it's nuts.
That's so I think another thing to to think about a little bit is the idea of, is George actually intentionally doing this, or is some of what he's doing by mistake?
I think it's a mistake. I think the best way I could say this is that Stannis is a more important and better character than Bran, and that's a problem.
Okay.
I mean, that's a huge problem. If Bran is supposed to be the final savior of the story, the fact that Stannis, who is so painfully obviously a red herring hero, he's he's the guy who thinks he's the hero and he's not. That's what he's telegraphed to be, and yet he is far more important, both structurally and thematically, to what's going on in the story. It's nuts. I have another Reddit post. I have my most popular Reddit post. Again, this is not me, the guy on the screen there, right? My most, is just, to me, just talking about how good Stannis is, just as a functional character, in the story, the way he works in the story. And because it's true, the story works. I don't want to make this all about Stannis, although everything in the Song of Ice and Fire comes down to Stannis. But he's the only character. Notice this. He is the only character where the two plots I talked about, the political plot and the magical plot, they actually start working together. They actually start coming together in some kind of coherent way. Right? I mean, think about it. Jon was only dealing with one. Daenerys is dealing with neither, which is part of her fucking problem. And who's the third and who's the third main? Tyrion doesn't even touch this stuff. Right? Tyrion, who is the best character, quote unquote, he has nothing to do with the magic stuff. So and yes, I do think it's an accident. I do think it was an accident. I do think the story became something he didn't expect. And I think instead of recognizing that and rolling with it, he is resenting it, and it's keeping him from finishing. And I would also not be shocked if he feels if he pivoted, he would be going back on his own vision.
He's supposedly the magical threat is the main thing, but very little story has anything to do with it whatsoever.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I don't even know what George is trying to do with the White Walkers. It seems as though it's a mystery. Unfortunately, it kind of, when you analyze a lot of George's work, he mystery boxes a lot of stuff.
That's regrettable. I mean, Is there any character that gets cooler the more like I don't it sucks to do this to him, but you always got to compare him to the man, the real double R Tolkien himself, right? And like, does any character get cooler the more you know about him than Sauron?
Well,
I don't. There's very many. Yeah, I think that's a very good point.
I'm not saying that to them. My point is that like Sauron is like a note. My point is that like the more you learn about him, the cooler he gets. You know,
Larry?
Tolkien's an interesting comparison because he's also a discovery writer. He's maybe even more of a discovery writer than Martin. If you know about, if you've seen any of his early drafts for Lord of the Rings, he had no idea what he was doing at first. But then he was able to go back and unite the whole thing in a coherent vision and give it a conclusion, even if history goes on afterwards. But it's still, there's a conclusion to this particular part of the story.
Exactly.
So he was able to do that because he had the discipline to do it.
Exactly.
And
he had the discipline. Again, the famous line is the tale grew in the telling, right? Like he had the discipline to do it. He had the I don't know what would the phrase be, moral conviction. Like he had like he had the stones to say this is what the story is going to be about. You know, and he didn't need, and again, like the mystery box things are very relevant. I think that the whole like Dark Star Balance One thing, I think it's a very good example of a mystery box, just garbage. I think that like the whole Jamie, Brienne, Lady Stoneheart cliffhanger where they leave off in book 5 is so like nuts when you think about it. Like how the hell, like everyone has like these crazy theories about like, oh, Jamie's going to champion Cersei in a trial of 7 and this and that. It's like, how the hell is he going to get out of this? How the hell are they going to get out of that? Like, how does, I don't even know.
Maybe they have to kill her, but even if they do that, they still have to deal with the Brotherhood, or what's left of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then like, oh, there's going to be the Red Wedding 2.0, and it's like, Jesus. It's just so like there's a lot of like threads that aren't cohering well, and I think that's true. But like the main ones that do work really. I also hate Arya and Bravos, but that's a different matter entirely. The ones that do work pretty well, right? Like again, I bring it back to Stannis. Like his story works like almost perfectly. I like Jon a lot. I know Jon's dead, but there's more than a couple ways he might be brought back. All right, so there's that. At least his story like works. You know, Tyrion is. You know, here's another thing. Here's another thing that I always thought that I found really interesting looking at the story a lot. One thing that's really been fascinating to me is seeing how different like things change over time in the fandom and how certain characters go up and certain characters go down, right? There was a time, supposedly, where Arya was like one of the top characters in the series. And like, I feel like that's really not true anymore. Which is not necessarily a shame, but it is kind of like interesting.
She was one of the original 5 characters that were supposed to last throughout the entire series, right?
Something like that. Not only that, like, you know, like to me, you go back and you look at like Tower of the Hand, the one of the fan websites, and you know, she was number 2 on their favorite characters. But it was Tyrion and then her, and I think it was Jon. But like she was number 2 in the series, and it's like now she's like totally disposable. And I think some of that is the series. Some of that is the show like completely ruining her. But
ruining who? Remind me again.
Arya.
Yeah, Arya's ruined. Yeah.
Maisie Sue.
Yes.
Yeah.
Horrendous.
Yeah.
I hate Arya in the show. I hate Arya in the show. I think Arya like really drops off in Bravos. I think the House of the House of Black and White is like pretty lame, actually. I think the Faceless Men are kind of lame, but that's just me.
The Death Cult Mafia.
Well, they're cool for like a sentence when they explain like their not nihilistic but very fatalistic outlook on life, and like that's fine. And then it's like, but what the plot with them devolves into is like they're like, hey Arya, we're gonna train you to like be an assassin, but that means like you're gonna forsake your identity and such. And Arya's like, yeah, okay. And they're like, are you lying to us? And she's like, no, I'm not lying to you at all. But she's actually lying to them. And that's like the story. That's like the plot of what's going on.
Yeah.
And then and I think some of this does go down into sort of some of Martin's proclivities. I know we were talking about earlier about, he seems to think Jaehaerys was a good king, which is like, shows what he knows.
I wonder vaguely if he had this idea of Jaehaerys being a good king in the abstract, and he came up with like the name with like just the list of kings and all that, But then then he had to write things for Jaehaerys to do and to happen to him, and then when that happened, he ended up writing a story where Jaehaerys wasn't so good after all.
He wrote the story. He wrote a story where Jaehaerys turned he turns the Targaryen monarchy into the God Emperorship, and I mean that like the word. Like this is something that I am going to say that is I think like this could be a good thing in terms of the writing, right? Like so like Westeros strikes me as less like medieval and more like late Roman and how it's like set up. In terms of how like the story is like working, because like the ruling class is like they're decadent, they're when I say they're impious, I mean they're not morally driven, right? They're driven entirely by cynical motives. The Targaryens themselves particularly seem like, I mean, this is like to get like into like really hot water, I guess, like the Faith of the Seven, like Martin ruined the Faith of the Seven with Fire and Blood. Ruined it. Because he basically turned it into like a toothless religion that basically cucked itself to the Targaryens. And I have no respect for it anymore.
Okay, interesting. Hadn't they kind of cucked themselves already?
When?
The High Septon is basically in the pocket of the Lannisters by the time of A Song of Ice and Fire.
Yes. I mean, that's true, but like I think Fire and Blood made it more explicit.
Okay, like as in the doctrine of exceptionalism and the disbanding of the Faith Militant.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I consider for just to put everything out there, I consider the doctrine of exceptionalism to be like evil. It is like the founding sin of the Targaryen dynasty.
Okay.
Right. Like
worse than anything Maegor did.
I mean, it's not. Well. Yeah, it is, because it retroactively justifies the kind of things Maegor does.
Okay.
Right. It gives
see where they're coming from.
It gives rationale to the crimes of people like Maegor. It gives rationale to the crimes of people like Rhaenyra. It gives rationale to the crimes of people like Aerys II. Right. A Blood Raven, who I also don't like, although I think is a great character. Like again, I want to make this very clear. When I say I don't like these things, what I mean is I think they're like
morally
reprehensible. Yeah. I think they're repugnant in some way. I think they're actually these things could be great bits of story, and I think they are actually decent bits of story.
Yeah, right? Blood Raven's a great character.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's a great idea for a character. And the Targaryens being like capable and competent, but also like operating on the principle of like some sort of like divine emperor, like not even like divinely appointed or divinely sanctioned emperorship, but like a divine emperorship, right? Like transposing like the way like ancient rulers thought of themselves to a martial setting, a medieval martial setting, is cool and good. But like, am I then supposed to like unilaterally think that like, am I supposed to think like that like Robert's Rebellion was this very like morally ambiguous act? I don't think so. Am I supposed to be all aggrieved when like I don't like what am I supposed to go with this? Like I don't know. I find like a lot of this is like this is me trying to not like get annoyed at Targaryen simply. That's what you're hearing right now. So I don't want to just turn this into an anti-Targaryen rant, but like, and I'm not even an anti-Daenerys rant because like Daenerys is so far removed from this. Like, that's a whole other problem with the whole series is how removed Daenerys is from this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they're supposed to be. Eventually, she's supposed to come to Westeros and invade and conquer, or something like that. But it doesn't look like he's going to write that bit.
No,
and also, the way the hero arc has gone in Essos kind of binds her to Essos because of her freeing the slaves there in Marine and stuff like that. She has stakes there, which she doesn't really have in Westeros, does she?
Exactly, and you know, it's crazy that like she chooses to stay in Marine, and like it's weird because like to me that's like that's far and away the most moral thing she does in that book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
whole other deep conversation. Like that's the other thing that's really frustrating with Daenerys is like I think there are definitely problems like within her story, like especially the fact that she has no good antagonists. But the actual content,
she doesn't have a Tywin or a Roose Bolton to go up against.
Like, don't get me started on the Roose. Roose is like one of my favorites. Like he's so good.
There's an interesting theory that the only reason why he's keeping Ramsay around is because he intends to body steal.
Yes, the
bolt-on
theory. Even beyond that, like Roose. So here's a fun thing to think about. When you think about this, right? This kind of stuff, right? Who could have done what Roose Bolton did in the story? Who could have pulled that off? Right? Because like what he pulls in the story is like kind of crazy when you think about it. And not in a, this is ridiculous, but like, no, this guy's a badass way. Like, in a scummy, evil way. But like Tywin couldn't have pulled off what Roose Bolton pulled off. Right?
Yeah. Though it's also true that Roose may have miscalculated because now he has no support in the north and the south isn't powerful enough to keep him.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. But also, I think Roose's character is best understood as like purely nihilistic. Like he's not interested in that kind of crap. He was playing a game. He won. He won the game. He killed Robb Stark. Just for fun, just for shit, just for kicks.
Yeah, and he is. Yeah, Roose is a great villain because he's also like. He's not like he's sort of nice to Theon, but at the same time,
like he's a finicky weirdo. Like this is the other thing that doesn't like come across always. Like he's also like a finicky weirdo health nut. He's like this. Like he's not like this is my favorite way of thinking about Roose. He is what Tywin claims that he is, right? He's what Tywin wishes everyone thought of him as. He is this ice cold, cold-blooded, pure Machiavellian, no frills, no heat. Just will do exactly what he needs to get what he wants. Now his ambitions happen to be not grandiose, let's say, but that's who he is, right? Tywin, by contrast, runs hot, right? Like Tywin under the surface is a petty man, who runs on his grievances, who like badly overreacts, like constantly if you're paying attention, right? So that to me is like that's kind of like an interesting thematic space actually, where this is an interesting thing to think about, right? Ramsay is an upgrade on Joffrey, right? Because Ramsay is a Joffrey who isn't a coward and also a little smarter, which isn't a hard bar to clear, but bear with me. It is thus interesting to think of Roose as an upgrade on Tywin in some way. But that's just me.
Roose is also a fashion expert.
Oh, he is. He is.
Inferior boots. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yes. I know. Don't worry. I think he... I like how... I love, like everything about him. Like, again, he's one of those things where, like, things, like, work. Like, things seem to work with Roose the way they work with, like, Stannis or the way they work with, like, you know, like, other characters, like Tywin, like, full, like, or, like, you know, like, other characters where they fully, like, realize that, like, the full potential of that character within the narrative is realized, right? And, like, I like how also he is, I remember once that there was a comment about how someone was like, oh, why isn't, like, why wouldn't it make more sense for Manderleys, the outsiders to the north, be the traitor house? And it's like, well, no, that's silly, because that's like saying that, like, the North are always good guys. It's important that the Boltons are as of the North as the Starks are.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And back to the point. Back to the point I was making about Daenerys, though. I apologize. Right? Yes, she has bad villains, and by that I mean she has poor villains. But, like, her story is not irredeemable in and of itself. There are like some interesting things in there. It's just that when it is like this tumor, like, growing out of the side of the actual plot, it's, like, ridiculous. But that's just me.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Got distracted. Where were we? Sorry.
Oh, we were just talking about how Daenerys is, like, she's too separated from the main plot.
Oh, yeah. Daenerys. She's too separated because supposedly she's going to join up with it, but the story kind of went away from that. And now they're going to have to find some way. They'd have to find some way of bringing her to Westeros, while at the same time resolving Meereen. I'm not sure how they can do that. Of course, he's not going to finish anyway. So,
and we'll get Stonehold. I mean, that's another thing. Like, talk about man, he might have ruined. He might have ruined books for a lot of people.
Yeah,
that's like a harsh thing to say, but that's like
how so? That's an interesting point. And I want you to elaborate on that.
I mean, in the sense that, like, there is, and I'm almost certain that there is a whole subset of, like, potential people who are going to be like, if a series isn't finished, I don't want anything to do with it. Right? Yeah. And like, and that's not necessarily fair, but that is going to be true. Like, it's going to be true. Like, you know, and like the whole, like, this is where it gets frustrating, because the whole way, like, the first book in a series is read on the presumption that there will be later books. And Martin betrayed that social contract, as far as I'm concerned. So, you know,
he's also made multiple verbal written promises via his blog, joking or otherwise, that he would finish it. He has not delivered on any of the promises that he has made.
The notorious one about you can lock me up in blah blah, however it went. You can I can't remember anymore.
Yeah, I think it was, you can lock me up in, if I don't have it by this date, you can lock me up in jail until I finish it up.
Yeah, exactly. It's something like that, right? And it's just...
It's been like 5 years since that.
I know, and it's like, what... I think I think number one, it's the dissonance in theming that he's encountered, and two, I would not be surprised if a good chunk of what's bugging him is that people reacted very negatively to the show, and he does not want to make amendments to his plans because he feels like he would be a coward if he did. But he wants to secretly because he knows it sucks, because it does suck.
So you think that the story in the show, the ending in the show, is roughly what he had in mind?
I can believe that in the
At least
mid
a few
90s.
things. I don't think that Arya will kill the Night King, or
No.
even the Night King.
No, but
I don't think that will happen. But Daenerys going mad, R+L equals J meaning nothing, Jaime and Cersei dying together. Those are probably likely going to happen. I don't think Clegane Bowl will happen.
If it
Or if
does,
it does, it will be in a very different context. It will likely be in Cersei's trial.
yes, and it will be Sandor Clegane acting as an avatar of justice, not on his own revenge, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that matters. That actually matters. You know, that like one thing that I am not going to hold. One thing I'm not going to hold against Martin is that the show became like very depressingly morally nihilistic and cynical. And I will defend the series as it exists. Those 5 books, I will defend the series as not being that way.
No, it does not. It's basically, for the first 3 books, it's short-term games for the bad guys, but the end legacy is that the North still remers as of a Dance with Dragons.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, Tywin gets punished. Cersei looks to be punished.
You know,
yeah, she's probably going to be queen. It seems to be leaning to that she's going to be queen in the West, while Aegon takes over King's Landing, and that what likely happens is Jon Con sets off the wildfire.
Yeah, that's sort of like
because he goes nuts. Because he's nuts from a combination of grayscale and his own PTSD.
Yeah, it's more likely that he would do it because, as you know, the original version had King's Landing being burnt by wildfire, and Dany accidentally setting off wildfire while attacking the Lannister soldiers and some civilians that were being used as human shields. That was the original script. Dragon Demands has a video or 3 about that. Well, he had a video or 3. There's at least 1 video left that I guess he put it back up. So, and that makes more sense because the only real reason that I can think of to think that King's Landing is going to get burnt at all is because of Chekhov's wildfire.
Yeah, and I mean that goes into other things like the stuff with Jaime. I mean, to me, the big one is King Bran. To me, like all that other stuff is interesting. Is like, don't worry, there's plenty to talk about there. But to me, the one that's got to be like eating at him, the one that like dominates the way the story is constructed is Bran.
Yes, so that leads to an interesting discussion. Preston Jacobs is kind of like, he's going with in his fan fiction of Winds of Winter, he's going with the theory that time-traveling Bran is the orchestrator of all this, and this is the result of multiple timeline manipulations in order to try and steer the world into the right place, and whenever he loses, he just goes back in time to try and fix and change it. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
So that's not dissimilar to the whole Night King Bran theory that was really popular for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
the idea that it's just kind of a time loop that just keeps going endlessly.
Exactly. And part of that theory, at least the part that I liked a lot, was the idea that Bran's constant attempts to fix things, like, is part of what drove him to the point where he became the Night King, where he became genocidal and stuff, right? On a deeper level, though, the whole idea of Mage King Bran is, I think, the intention, right? Where And yeah, like, oh, we can see like, oh, Blood Raven or Bran as Blood Raven or like time warging Bran or whatever is like manipulating things. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not a huge fan of all that, but of like, because I don't like things that take agency away. But the idea of the last ruler, the ideal ruler, being this like majocrat is probably, yes, that probably is what Martin originally envisioned the series ending on when he conceived of it back in the mid-90s. Except what we've learned in the 30 years since then is that that kind of thinking is heinous. You know, the answer to Westeros' problems can't be the installation of like another God King.
Yeah,
that's the whole
it's
problem.
just a different. Yeah,
Yeah.
the Targaryens were functionally God Kings, where they were unable to be dethroned for many years, and even without their dragons, which is kind of interesting to think about. That it took that long after the Targaryens lost their dragons for rebellions to work against them.
Yeah, which is it's not really all that surprising if you compare it to real life, because dynasties do last for centuries before being overthrown. So the Targaryens would last as well.
They lasted for what, 150 years after the dragons? That's about, that's as long as
about 7 generations ish, if we go by the generation being about 20 years.
Exactly. Like, so just, it's the Roman Empire lasted for a long time and they didn't have dragons. Now the dynasty didn't exactly last that long, but we can make a concession, I think.
I'm just thinking that the only way that the way that the Target, I guess maybe they were just used to it, and even with the Blackfire rebellions, with those being unsuccessful, the crown still stayed in power. But I guess,
but the problem,
there wasn't anybody as bad as nobody was as bad as King Aerys, and they were just like, you know what, life is fine. We're not really going to do anything.
Exactly.
I mean,
you had something to say, Valerian?
Yeah, like I say, just what I was going to say. Just the same thing I just said, that that dynasties tend to last a while after. Without dragons, they tend to last a while from sheer inertia and because, respect for tradition and all that. So that's what would have happened in this case too, it seems.
No, I get it, and I agree. Like, I think that they last a functional length of time, right? Like they're not like, there's nothing like egregious about their length of time they rule. The problem is what they conceived of rule as, right? And this is why I said they're more like Roman emperors than medieval kings. Right, because the emperor was dominus. The emperor was lord. The emperor was, in many, a lot of emperors became deified, right? And you see like that the way that political corruption is. Again, it's why that's kind of like why I don't really care about the Faith of the Seven at all. And it sucks because like the Faith of the Seven has plenty of interesting things in it, but it's the way it's used in the stories. It's basically a politically cucked religion. And I think that's actually the thing that's most similar about the series versus vis-a-vis, medieval quote unquote history or medieval type fantasy. And like Martin's thing is, Martin's vision was probably originally that, the problem, the series, again, like think about the original conception of the series, right? There's an impending crisis. Petty political conflicts are distracting us from solving that crisis. How do we solve that? How do we resolve the story so that like people can believe in the future that these kind of things won't be a problem. It's like, oh, we'll install like this magical wizard kid king, and that's like not how people should be ruled. That's just not how people should organize themselves. Right? We don't need we don't need another technocrat in charge.
Yeah. I think another thing to kind of consider is what would kind of be the ending that would be most thematically appropriate? Or do you think that George R. Martin is considering the thematics when he's writing beyond, as you have eloquently put it a couple times, his boomers is 60s and 70s boomer sentimentalities?
Well, for me at least, if I like, see, here's the thing, right? If you gave me the last episode of the Game of Thrones, right? You said, how would I fix this? Right? How would I fix this? I would probably do almost like, I wouldn't do everything exactly the same. Because fuck Sansa by that point. I love Sansa in the books. I love her in the books. But she's so bad in the show. But the way you can do it is just make Bloodraven or make Mage King Bran or whatever. Just make them the last enemy that must be defeated. Right? Just make it be that the last thing to be rejected is their cynicism. So, you know, is the last bit going to be like Jon having to like fight in some way, like Bloodraven Bran, Three-Eyed Bran, to like save Westeros from the God King? I'm okay with that. You know? I mean, I imagine in the show, like, so, like, if I can, if I may, right, indulge myself a moment. Like, I imagine, like, what I said was, like, the way that you could do the show. Is someone watching something?
Oh, is that my radio?
Yeah, it's a little bit loud. It kind of sounds like a Swan Lake a little bit, but
Sorry.
maybe I'm
Yeah, I should go off my walk shortly anyway, and maybe look in again later. But if not quite yet, because I'm still doing something with photos.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I will say this: like, one thing I always mention is like the last like bit could have been like Jon like breaking back into King's Landing to like confront Bran, and like you could even do a thing where like Bran like summons, like, you know, because Bran's like gonna psychically assault him to like stop him or whatever. Then you could do a thing where like, you know, Sean Bean and the Robb Stark actor and like the Catelyn actor can all like come back and like fight Jon, and he's like kill them to like kill Bran. Because he has to do the right thing. He has to not let people be ruled by lies and cynicism, right? Like that's like I'm sorry. Like your question was, how would it be thematically appropriate, right? Like what's the thematically appropriate ending? That's the answer. People should not be ruled by lies and cynicism.
And a God King is not the answer to the whole thing, unless George R. Martin is going for a kind of nihilistic ending, because a God. I think honestly the D&D didn't fully understand the depths of how powerful Bran is, or the fact that the idea of Bran Stark, the Three-Eyed Raven, on the throne is a terrifying concept.
Yeah, and they couldn't even handle like the cool even if they didn't think it was bad. Like let's say they were fully on board with it, right? They couldn't even think of like the cool things you could do with that, because the ice, the White Walkers just become ice zombies. Like they're totally uninteresting. There's like 1,000 more cool things you could do with like the psychic leader of the ice demons, and instead he's just like a thug, right? You know, like they can't even imagine a cool thing to do with them. It's probably why they couldn't think of anything cool to do with Euron or with the House of the Undying or any of the dream stuff. Like there's no like space, there's no like place for like all the weird trippy shit. And I say that facetiously, but not like total like that's all the good stuff, right? And no, they did not have any appreciation. Of course, they didn't have any appreciation for how bad Bran, like God King Bran, is. They probably thought Sansa being Queen of the North was cool.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, these are the fuckers who thought like oh my god, like don't get me started on fucking Renly, man. Probably the worst thing that has happened recently is that like Renly has gone like people have been doing like a 180 on Renly for like a long time now, where it's like, oh, Renly would have been the best of the kings, and that's a way to wire me up.
How so? Run me through it. I know that like Renly is kind of a fop, and he doesn't seem to actually care about ruling, at least from my perspective. He also kind of is more obsessed with the trappings of rulership rather than the acts of rulership.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's all obvious. At a deeper level, he's a might makes right tyrant who like doesn't conceive of power beyond his ability to compel others to fight and kill for him. Right? Like that's dangerous. Like it's a dangerous precedent, right? I mean, like, I agree with all that. I think Renly's scum. Oh, he's gotta go. All right. Fair enough.
Yeah, he has to head out. But yeah.
No big deal. But you know what's been happening in like if you can find plenty of like recent dialogue on like Reddit where they're like, oh yeah, Renly would have been the best of them. He would have won the whole war. Like Sauron wouldn't have won the whole fucking war too, if not for like magic bullshit. Like it doesn't make him right. Jesus. Like it's again, this is like there is some we can like harp on Martin for being more than this or something, but man, a lot of the fandom is also like really aggravating about this. And again, like Renly himself doesn't like affect. Like Renly is like a tertiary character at best, who dies like in the second book. He's not that worth talking about. It's what frustrates me about Renly is like the apologia that like surrounds him. It's infuriating. It's not even it's not engaging with the story as it's written, and it's not even having an ounce of like moral or ethical sense. It's rooting for like it's rooting for the biggest warlord. It's stupid.
Yes, it's functionally Renly just says, "I've got the biggest army.
Yes,
therefore I'm king."
Yeah.
Even though he doesn't really have that many qualifications. Like under Robert, he didn't do anything to
he is
actually like be the master of laws. Like he's the master of laws, but it's like it's just Robert writing his kid brother.
Yeah, he oversees one of the most corrupt courts you can possibly imagine, right? And here's a deeper crime he has, right? This is one of his goals, you might say, is he is reducing Robert's rebellion to be like his rebellion or his usurpation or whatever you want to call it, right? Like it's reducing Robert's rebellion into some sort of just naked, cynical power play. When in reality, it is, of course, a completely appropriate and just reaction to tyrannical overreach, right? Mm-hmm. But you have people who like just will say like, oh, well, Robert's rebellion was just about, power and, nothing else matters except force. And it's like, it's Renly is like Renly even more than Tywin, right? Renly is the guy who believes, and even more than like the Greyjoys, believe it or not, right? Renly is the guy who believes in might makes right.
And Tywin, he's just okay with fear, with basically a quiet land functionally. That's what Tywin wants.
Kind of. I mean, Tywin at least has like this concept of like, he definitely has like this concept of like competence, and he has this concept of like grandeur, you might say. It's like wrapped up in him. But like at least Tywin like has like some sort, like he's almost like too cynical because like he thinks he can like not trick people, but like one of the interesting things about Tywin for me is like is how much does he believe his own bullshit? Because there's a reading of Tywin where he does legitimately believe in all the stuff he says, where he does like or at least he thinks he does, right? Like he thinks that like, oh, I really am the best. I am the man. But then there's a reading of Tywin where you say, well, he doesn't actually think that. He just knows that he has to like project that in order to win, like, you know, arguments and stuff. And he's trying to like gaslight. He's like the question is whether he is consciously gaslighting everyone around him or if he has gaslit himself. But that's a whole different kind of concept. Renly is just like Renly is just the might rank right guy, and he is his deeper crime is his reduction of all politics to that, right? There's no legitimacy. There's only force. There's no law. There's only war, and also people just misrepresent things. Like he and Catelyn come to no agreement in the books. They come to no agreement. He ends his life like this. The thing again. This is part of the drama of his death scene, is that he dies rejecting her peace offers, right? He dies rejecting the Great Council. He shows who he really is, right? That's part of like he doesn't. And notice he doesn't die. That doesn't happen after the Shadow Assassin kills him. That happens before the Shadow Assassin kills him, right? He shows who he really is before he dies.
Yeah, he's not willing to actually like go forward in a manner that would be
conciliatory,
like, actually lawful.
Yeah, exactly. No, he died. Yeah, he dies. The last bit before he dies is him telling Catelyn, "You're going to watch me have my boyfriend kill my brother, and you're going to go tell your son what happens." And that's
which is very much a. I don't think you're what you're saying is what you think you're saying.
What do you mean?
Like with what you said, like where Renly. Do you think it's a veiled threat, or is Renly just being dumb with that one?
What do you mean? I'm genuinely confused.
Well, it's just what I'm saying is like what Renly is saying is what I'm saying is Renly is I'm saying to Renly what you're saying is not what you think you're saying. Where it's like maybe it's do you think that Renly is being magnanimous when he makes the threat about Stannis, or is he just kind of being a dick?
No, I think he's
dick to Catelyn.
I think remember the threat is to Catelyn, and I think he's doing it intentionally, right? He's telling Catelyn, "I reject." Like again, let's frame the scene correctly, right? Like let's go over the scene, right? Catelyn is like, "Hey, let's call a Great Council. There's a dispute about the inheritance. Let's just get everyone together and talk it out." And Renly's like, "No, does the wolf he's like, oh, does the wolf vote on who runs the pack or something like that? Now we'll see who's the stronger." And he basically tells her, right, "I'm gonna defeat my brother. I'm gonna kill him, or rather, I'm gonna have my boyfriend kill him because
he's not a good fighter."
Yeah, and that's not even necessarily a critique of him. It's just like the layers of how he uses people, right? And like the layers of how his power works, right? He gets others. Like again, like his conception is one of the more metal speeches in the story that never gets talked about is Renly's speech to Stannis at the parlay, where he talks about the people who hold the bolts of cloth. Because he talks about his followers and he talks about them as he doesn't talk about even the people. He talks about war axes and great swords and he I don't want to drag up the speech because it'll take forever. But he talks about his followers in specifically as the wielders of the tools of war, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's how he conceives of his followers. That's how he conceives of his cause. That's how he conceives of his justification, right? We have the great line of, there's my claim as good as Roberts ever was, and he's referring to his army, right? That's who Renly is. Renly is the military dictator, right? He is more like he's almost like a Napoleon, if you want to get into that. Like, I don't even know where to begin with this. Again, I'm not saying that he's as competent as Napoleon, but like, there's like nothing. There's like, at base, he seems to believe only in, can I force people? Can I force and or compel others to force people to agree to this? I have a big army. Make me the king.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And he is threatening Catelyn with that. And again, right before he dies, that is what the scene is about. The scene is Catelyn trying to get him to stop and call a great council, and he's like, no, watch me wreck my brother and go get wrecked. And then he dies. Right? He's killed after he shows who he really is. And that's a literary point I'm trying to make there, right? Same thing with, fun fact, and oh, look, Stannis is there again with Mance Rayder, right? Like, Mance Rayder gets to tell Jon Snow, no, we are going to come through the wall and we will not behave. We will not pillage and rape the North. We will not be barbarians. We do what we want. Only then, after he says that, he shows how dangerous he is he then defeated.
Okay.
Right? It's almost like cheating on Martin. Right? It's almost like Martin is cheating.
Okay.
And again, the fact that it includes Stannis both times is it coincidence? I don't know, probably. But you know what? I'm not going to let that slide because I think Stannis is Martin's best character. Not just because I like him or I agree with everything he says, but I think he's the best used character in the story.
Yeah, there's the I think it's the fandom sometimes just is like, have you seen the fandom videos where they talk about like they're like the running gag is that one of them is a Stannis the Manus simping clone.
Yeah.
and
I've not seen
which
this one. This
is
one's
really funny.
Yeah. But no, I've not seen that. That doesn't sound really funny though.
It is really really amusing.
That is funny. I mean, like, he should be simple. He is. I think Stannis is legitimately Martin's like one of Martin's like best characters. Again, I think he's the most like he's the only. Again, I really emphasize this, right? And this ties back into the earlier points, right? He is the only character where both parts of the story work together. He brings them together. Right? The war for the realm and the war against the others become one in Stannis.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I digress. But yes, Martin seems to be really suffering from just an inability to commit to things.
Yeah, I think also the one problem is that the few payoffs he had, there are a couple of payoffs that he has done well, like Lysa and Littlefinger.
Yes, that is
Jon Arryn. That is a very good payoff.
That is yes.
The cat spot payoff sucks.
Yes,
if you actually analyze it.
That one really. Yes, I agree. Yes, that you're 2 for 2 right now. Keep going.
To the degree that it's like a lot of people are like, no, that can't be true. Joffrey can't be the guy who sent the cat spot. That's stupid.
It's ridiculous.
But that's what Jaime thinks, and that's what Tyrion thinks, and they just but it seems to be taken as fact by everybody, even though it's like Joffrey's dumb, but he wouldn't do something that dumb.
And it's almost like, how can you be? I mean, I suppose this isn't like totally, but like it's almost like you're smart enough to think of this. Like it requires like levels of stupidity that are like kind of special.
Yeah, and I don't think that Joffrey would have a cat's paw kill a cripple with a dagger that could be easily traced to his dad.
I mean, he is stupid enough to do that, but it's also more like, why would he even give that dagger to a peasant? Like, what? Like, that's another thing. Like, that's a deeper thing. Why would anyone give a dagger like that to a peasant, to like a hired goon? You know, it's just so like weird that like and like the justification is wacky. Like he wants Robert to approve of him, and I get it. Like that. Okay, that kind of works, but like it. Like, why would Joffrey even like pick that up? Like he is responding to his father's condescending pity to Bran. Like, that's just weird. Like, I think that's very, very, very weird. And then, and in fairness, I do think this is one of the things where the show probably got it right, where they did the right thing, where it's like, no, it's Littlefinger. It's just Littlefinger. Just make it Littlefinger. It makes sense, right? Because it's just part of the Littlefinger and Lysa thing, which you are absolutely correct. The Littlefinger, the Lysa, I like to joke, not joke, but the whole thing with Stannis, like how Stannis like helps you understand the story thing. The other character that actually really helps you understand the story, if you actually like pay attention, is Lysa. Because once you understand Lysa's role in the story, everything starts to click. So, that's just me.
Mm-hmm. I think another thing that kind of feeds into is, do you think that George is mystery boxing this, or do you think that this is the actual thing that the final thing for who the cat's paw is? Because I'm interested to kind of like discuss about that, because like you can kind of go over the possibilities. Like Mance is actually a better possibility, since there's even a what's this bucket? There's that he says he came with a bag of silver, and the cat's paw had a bag of silver, but also it's like, how did he get hold of the dagger?
Yeah, no, I can't believe that's tin, like Mance Raider, that's tinfoil, and there's no good reason for him to do that. I can't imagine that. No, like, do I believe that Martin thinks he was doing something clever? Like, see, here's the thing, right? I can believe that Martin believed that he thought he was doing something clever when he did that, because what he's trying to do there is, I think, he's making what occurs more random, because it's just Joffrey being an idiot, right? There's nothing deeper there. There's no like cover up or false flag or whatever. It's Joffrey being a moron. So we probably think that that's clever, but it's not, Obviously it's not. We know it's not. Who else could it be? Again, I think Littlefinger is the obvious pick. Wouldn't be Varys. I mean, again, like we could say this, but like, I could say like, oh, it is Martin. Martin does intend for Joffrey, but then he realizes much later, oh, that's dumb. But then if he might go, well, if I change it, if I reveal in the Winds of Winter or Dream of Spring, pipe dream, that oh, it was really Littlefinger, I'm going back on myself. I'm being a coward, right? I'm not sticking to my guns. And that probably bothers
Hmm.
I think another thing, I think the one thing that bears talking about with kind of George's intentionality is Jaehaerys. I think there's a video by I think his name is James Green. I think. Let me look it up.
The guy who does like a bunch of
He's actually a fresh channel. He's only just barely started putting out videos a little bit ago. Seriously,
I think I'm thinking of not the book review guy.
He's not a book review guy. All right.
I'm thinking of
John. John Greenwood. He actually has a whole video saying Jaehaerys was a bad king. Actually,
good, because he was.
Yeah, and talks about not just the doctrine of exceptionalism, but also talks about the fact that Jaehaerys' foreign policy, especially with the Iron Bank, is awful.
Yeah, no,
he very much alienates rather than actually negotiating with. He just uses the threat of force to try and get the Iron Bank to capitulate.
If we want to go on Jaehaerys, my favorite thing in regards to hating on Jaehaerys is, he's the reason the Kingsguard sucks.
Keep going. I'm interested. I heard that.
So after Maegor is killed by Maegor was killed in that chair by that chair, if you believe it. But after Maegor is killed by the Iron Throne somehow, which actually is pretty metal. I actually like Maegor as a character. I think that there's a lot there. But after Maegor is killed by the Iron Throne, he part of what happens is that, if I remember correctly, what it is that two of Maegor's Kingsguard go to Jaehaerys, right? And that's part of what makes Maegor loses it completely, because he's losing all his allies, right? And then after the whole business with Maegor is resolved and Jaehaerys is the king and blah blah blah, he goes to the Kingsguard and he's like, "Look, you can't do that. You betrayed your king, and that means I'm going to send you to the wall, because that's it. You can't be doing that kind of stuff." And if you notice, the thing that we're supposed to, resent in the Kingsguard going forward is that they don't have their own agency. They don't actually practice critical moral decision making. And that's the thing that plagued Aerys's Kingsguard, letting them rape Rayla and stuff, or whatever her name was, his wife.
Well, his Kingsguard not doing anything while he sexually assaults his wife. Yeah.
But that's the thing, right? The king, the whole the king is the Kingsguard is supposed to guard the king, not judge him. That begins with Jaehaerys. That begins with Jaehaerys gaslighting the Kingsguard by saying you cannot make your own decisions. Right? He sends them to the wall. He said I will either kill you or I will send you to the wall. And he destroys them. He destroys their ability to act with agency. That's where it begins. Right? He subordinates the vows of knighthood to the Dragon Emperor, right? That's what he does. And that's it. That's where that's the easy way of putting it. So yes, I do blame the way the Kingsguard act on Jaehaerys. And it's another reason why Kristen Cole is not that offensive to me, because he just makes a decision. He chooses. He practices agency. And he just chooses to go with what I don't want to be told that the reason we're supposed to, hate the Kingsguard is that they're unthinking goons for the monarch, and then be all aggrieved that at the one guy who makes a choice. But I digress.
Yeah.
I'm happy. If you want to just turn this into ripping on Jaehaerys, then I have no problem with that. Because fuck that guy.
Yeah, Jaehaerys. I think also Jaehaerys is an awful dad.
He's not
really
great.
Bad.
He's not great by any means.
Yeah, the only ones that kind of turned out somewhat okay were Balon and Aemon, but those guys died.
Yeah.
whether you believe that they die as part of the Maester conspiracy or they died because of random chance. That's up to you. I think it's more likely that it's random chance because I don't think that George actually. Well, Grand Maester, what do you think of the Grand Maester conspiracy? Do you think that it's true, or do you think that it's bunkum based on a couple of lines?
So I think it's mostly bunk based on the fact that, like, so this is another interesting kind of thing. I remember I mentioned earlier about how, like, one of the things that really interests me is how character reputations like evolve within the fandom. And for me, one of the more really interesting ones is how House Tyrell went from being like House Tyrell in terms of like the plot of the main series is like super important. They're like incredibly important to actually the plot, and yet they have been like completely subordinated in analysis by House Hightower and the Maesters, like completely. Like you would think the Tyrells aren't even a thing in the story now at this point. And I think that the Grand Maester conspiracy theorizing is a part of that. I don't buy into it. I think it's like am I like what even is the Grand Maester conspiracy? That like they're like secretly working against the Targaryens, that they're secretly trying to install like an Illuminati over Westeros. I don't the story's not about that. All right? Like,
yeah, to the best of my knowledge, the Grand Maester conspiracy comes from the idea that the Maesters have been against House Targaryen from the beginning, and that the faith in the Targaryens have basically been at odds for the entirety of up until the end of the Dance of the Dragons.
No, I know. I mean, I know roughly what it's. I get that, right? I know it's roughly. I know the popular theory is that they kill off the dragons after the dance. Like they poison them basically, right? And I get that. I'm not.
That they put in like the Barbary Dustin speech that it was the Maesters that put the idea for the Southern ambitions.
That itself is, that's
which is probably not true since Barbary Dustin is clearly crazy.
Yeah, she's
the Maesters thing. I think it'd be kind of. It might not be the best. It might be true, but it wouldn't be the best world building because how are you going to get academics to agree for hundreds of years? You can't even get academics to agree short term. How are you going to get them to agree for hundreds of years and carry on this thing? I mean, I could see a faction of the Maesters, that's the dominant faction of the Maesters. Maybe that's what people mean by the Maesters. Maybe it's a shorthand for that. I could see that. But like, even so, it's going on for hundreds of years. It's not really a conspiracy at that point, is it?
I also don't think that it's like it's not a factor in the plot, right? Like,
yeah,
like
there are thrown in a Dance of Dragons.
Yeah, like
of nothing.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the actual like conspiracy theory that we have to like reckon with in the story is what Varys is doing, right? Like not to like to put it simply or to put it in simple terms, right? Like that's like
much more interesting because you can actually kind of make a lot of assumptions like, is Varys a Blackfyre supporter, or is this legitimately Aegon Targaryen, son of Rhaegar, and all that?
I love talking about Varys and Aegon VI because, one, I think that, like, no offense, I think everyone gets that wrong because, like, what you just said, right? I want to, like I don't want to come on too strong here, but like what you just said is, I think, the wrong way to read what's happening with Aegon VI.
Okay.
Because what Varys is doing should not be understood as like it's not like a dynastic plot. His motivations are not like familial or dynastic, right?
They seem to be more personal.
It's not even personal.
On how he what he does to Kevin seems like it is personal because most of the stuff and what he says to Kevin is a lie based on what we know of Aegon VI.
It's him being. It's a lie in the sense that Varys doesn't have. I mean, like Aegon VI isn't like the worst kid ever. Let's be real about this. But he's not like quite. He's not everything Varys wants him. He's not everything Varys says he is either. Obviously, because no one is like that. But that's the point, right? Varys is not like putting a false heir on the throne is something that's already covered by the Lannisters. Like the Lannisters are doing that, like thematically in terms of like story structure. That's what the Lannisters are doing, right? Varys's motivations are ideological. They're like utopian. He is like a modern day. He's like a 20th century. He's like a 20th century like ideologue, like whatever you want to use, right? He's like that working in the constraints of medieval fantasy, right? He's a utopian. We're gonna have the perfect prince, and he's gonna create the perfect realm, and there's gonna be a perfect peace, right? That's who Varys is. He's a utopian thinker. He's not interested in like the Blackfires or the Targaryens or whatever. Right? He doesn't care about any of that shit. He's trying to make the perfect prince. Right? He's an ideologue. He's not like a patriot or a loyal family member.
You think he actually does care for the realm?
I think he thinks he cares for the realm. Right? He cares for the realm the same way the Bolsheviks care about the proletariat. Right? He cares for the realm the way the Nazis care about Germany. He cares. He's not like he's not like the point of comparison here will just be the Lannisters for a moment, right? He's not like the Lannisters, where the Lannisters don't give a shit about that stuff, and they just want their family in power, right? Varys is not. I'm not saying he's black. I'm not saying Israel isn't a Blackfire, but like Varys doesn't care about the Blackfire, the Targaryen thing. He wants his guy. He believes that he can manipulate. He can give people a story. Like he can give people a song. He can give people a narrative that they will eat up and that they will accept. That he can be the master of truth. And he will have his perfect prince on the throne. And that's what society needs. Right? It's the Blackfire thing to me is totally irrelevant. It's like a fake out almost. It has nothing to do with Varys' real motivations. Aegon is an ideological project, not a dynastic project. And it sucks because the kid is like being taken. Obviously, we're all being lied. Like Westeros is being lied to, right, about what is going on, right? Because Varys is like wading through oceans of blood to like tongues to like get this happening, and the kid Aegon the Sixth himself is being taken advantage of. Right, like he is.
So, do you think? So that kind of begs the question: what is George trying to do with Fagon? Because thematically, it would be interesting if he is Aegon and that he comes into conflict with Daenerys and Jon because he is legitimate, and it's more complicated that these technically illegitimate or like not as legitimate Targaryens are coming up against the rightful king, who is actually a good king, only to have these two come in and take his throne from him.
Yeah, there are lots of different
pretender. Sorry.
There's also theories that Daenerys isn't actually a Targaryen. There's the whole.
Now we're getting deep.
The whole
Lemon Gate. Let's go.
Yeah, she's actually, a what do you call those things? Dragon seed. That's Even though there's obvious problems with her story, I think that's a stretch. There's that theory. There's also a theory that what's his name? Aegon is actually from Aerion Brightflame. But yeah, there's all sorts of different ways that could get complicated, and maybe it'll end up with neither of the three claimants being. Probably neither of the three claimants will be the perfect king or the perfect queen or whatever.
I agree with that. I mean, like Aegon being. I don't like calling him Fagin. It's just kind of like a quirk of mine. But like Aegon the Sixth. Like Aegon the Sixth can be the best kid ever, right? Like he the problem is that Varys is like putting on him things that shouldn't be put on anyone, right? Like no one can be perfect, and Varys is like think again, like we talked about Jaehaerys, right? Think about like what Varys is doing here. Varys is Varys is doing something very evil here. Like I want to be very clear. I'm talking about Varys. Like Aegon is only part of Varys, right? Like Varys is like the villain here in this context, right? And I do think Varys is a villain. What Varys is doing is he is subordinating truth to the monarchy, to the sovereign, right? He is saying, I can manipulate the truth such that people will accept my political narrative because it's convenient or it's convincing or whatever, right? His relationship with the truth is skewed, right? It's improper. You know, I remember once, and not necessarily here, I remember talking to my friend about it, I compared Varys to Melkor, right? Because in the Silmarillion and whatever, right? Melkor just, you know, in his fights against the rest of the Valar, right? He manipulates the world by like destroying, by physically uncreating by physically trying to ruin what they created, right? The other Valar created. And like human beings can't do that, right? Human beings can't like, except with great technology, human beings can't like unmake the world physically. But the way that they reshape reality is that they lie. Right, that's how human beings are like Melkor, which is to say that that's how they're like Satan. And this is what Varys is guilty of, right? Varys is guilty of subordinating reality to his vision instead of the opposite, which is reality exists and you subordinate your vision to it. And
I did have one thought that somebody brought up to me a while back, was that the even-numbered Aegons are bad and the odd-numbered Aegons are good. Based on the pattern, it might be that Aegon the Sixth is a bad king, and he does seem to demonstrate certain spoiled brat tendencies.
Yeah, I mean, like he's not perfect by any means, but it's you know.
Though there actually are the only time that he is a spoiled brat is really when he's frustrated at losing. The other times he seems like he's actually a relatively well put together kid.
I mean,
when he convinces the Golden Company, he's like, you don't need any other dragon but me.
Yeah, I think that like this, like him being like, you know, oh, he's like actually terrible, is a little overstated. Like he gets pissed at Tyrion, who is at his worst at this point, like riling him up. Like, come on, like of course he's gonna get pissed
and mentally like screwing with him.
Yeah, exactly.
Tyrion, like under the guise of teaching him, lies to him about a move he's going to make, and and then in frustration at being cheated.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's
Aegon reacts with
frustration,
being somewhat upset, which I think is reasonable because Tyrion's not a good person by this point. He never really was a good person when you really analyze him, but he's really awful, and he's revealed very much as an emerging supervillain in Dance with Dragons, especially with the line about him wanting to rape and kill Cersei.
Yes. No, yeah. Like him getting pissed off at Tyrion is not like a condemnation of his entire character. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. And especially since he wants to be out in the forefront. He seems like he's almost like a Targaryen Robb Stark in a way, with slightly less, and even might have the same shortcoming where he marries the wrong girl when he went with Arya Martell. Yeah.
No, Varys has set him up to play. Forget what Varys has set Aegon up to play the part of like country unifier better than like anyone else, right? Renly couldn't, even Renly, not Renly, not Stannis, not the Lannister, Baratheon kids, Baratheon quote kids, right? Not Robb Stark, who's not really fighting for total unity, right? Like this kid is like set up like when I say set up perfect, I mean like everything about him is like set to work. He is a martial, he's a martial prince at the head of a disciplined army that is not actually foreign technically, that is ideologically loyal to him. So it's a very like he has like a lot going for him. It's why you know, I don't think he's like some chump who's going to get BTFO'd by fucking Randall Tarley or something.
Yeah, there's more. There is the theory that Randall Tarley is one of the friends in the Reach, and he's just kind of tired of taking orders from a guy that he sees as a fat loser.
Oh my god, I love Mace. I love Mace, but that's so true.
Because here's the thing, Randall Tarley is a massive jock asshole.
He is.
Like,
he is
that is
what
he is coded as.
He is
He
what
is everything that George hates about the military.
he kind of is. He is what. So I'm always interested in like you got like. There's lots of great like points of comparison in this series, and Randall is like what critics of Stannis think Stannis is like.
Yes, Randall Tarley is a humorless asshole.
Yeah,
like he has. Whereas Stannis is actually fairly funny, and a lot of like what is brought up in a Game of Thrones is kind of retcon when you actually get to know him and feast into.
Well, it's just informed more, right? It's fleshed out. Like Randall is humorless. He's a stick in the mud. He's overly harsh. He's almost unthinking. He's narrow-minded. You know.
And I think that I think that he would hate Mace Tyrell because for the same reasons that he hates Sam.
See, the thing is that I disagree with that because Mace to me is part of my disdain for House Tyrell because I think that they're scum is also an appreciation of how good they are at what they do. I think that Mace. Don't get me wrong. I think Mace is kind of a fool, but not entirely. He's not like some dungeon, and he's not like Sam. Right? What Randall hated about Sam is that Sam was gentle. Right? That's what he was frankly cowardly. Mace Tyrell is not that. Yeah. Mace Tyrell, for all his faults, is not that. He's fat, but he's not soft in his personality. You know, he's not like, you know, there's no evidence that he's a coward. I think that's a little unfair, right? He probably just hates. If he hates Mace, it's because Mace is just not as competent as he pretends to be, and he, you know, so he takes some credit from the guy.
Since the victory at Ashmark really is Randall Tarley, but
Yes.
Mace Tyrell claimed that victory for himself.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's just interesting to. So, do you think that Randall Tarley might turn on Mace if the possibility of Highgarden is presented like it was in the show?
If like, I guess my question there would be like, who else would it? I mean, yes, we can imagine plenty of characters that might otherwise be. But like when we're talking about like actual characters with plot presence, who else would it be? Right? I mean, it could be like something like really out of left field. Like I always love me a good peak sighting.
Yeah,
so it could be.
I was under the impression that the peaks are pretty much dead after Maekar destroyed them.
Yeah, exactly.
That was my impression. But I could be wrong. I'd be misremembering.
No, I mean, they are technically alive. Fun fact: I think the one of the interesting bits in the story, like in the appendices, is that the current Lord of Starpike, and I think it actually is Titus Peak. Titus Peak is married to a Lannister. So like I guess you could do that, but that's like a no-name guy, right? I mean, it could be like, you know, some of the other like total bit character reach lords, like the lady who runs Old Oak, or you know, someone else.
Yeah, let's see if I can. Let's see, even if now I'm going now I'm looking in. I'm digging around at the appendix. See who else is in there. Anyone that we know about? Carry on though.
Yeah.
House Stark. House Tyrell. Here we are. Let's see. We got the Tyrells.
I know the red
Bulwark.
wines are powerful, but Paxter Wine's kind of occupied with Euron Greyjoy.
Yeah, he's also like, I mean, his mom is like, I mean, or his aunt is a red wine. Like, you know, his kin
Olenna
is
Tyrell.
Yes.
Yeah, Olenna Tyrell is the
is a red wine. Yeah.
Yeah, and plus he doesn't. You're talking about characters who have like plot presence. He doesn't really. And not to mention these other people like Arwen Oakhart and stuff that you just have to look up and hear.
Yeah.
Humphrey Hewitt. I think it'll be Humphrey Hewitt. I think he's going to be Azor Ahai.
That would be awesome. I would love that. That would be great.
That'd be pretty sick. Philip Foote out of nowhere.
Yeah, Humphrey Hewitt both begins with two H's and Azor Ahai begins with two A's, so there's a bit of a parallel there. Guthrie Grimm, that's a pretty cool name. Sorry, Lady Tana and the Merryweathers. Lady Tana is up to something, but I don't think
that is an interesting plot. Do we think that she's a Varys or Littlefinger, or would we go with the idea that Varys and Littlefinger are only shamming to be at odds with each other?
I'm sorry. We're talking about Tana, or we're talking about the other two of them?
Lady Tana. She is an interesting character. She's with Orphan Merryweather.
The theory is that she's a Varys or Littlefinger plant that is trying to cause chaos.
She's definitely some kind of a plant.
I think she's a woman who was caught up in the nonsense, and she thought she could take advantage of it, and she realized how fucking crazy Cersei is, and she left. She got out as soon as she can.
Especially after she got raped by Cersei.
Yeah. I'm trying to keep it like PG here.
Yeah.
Fuck. No.
Oops, you used the R word. We got demonetized.
It's after an hour. I don't think they'll notice.
Yeah.
Oh, so after an hour, you can just say whatever you like.
Don't worry, I'm not going to say anything anti-Semitic. I'm not PewDiePie.
But you're not going to say you're not going to sing that song, are you?
Well, we're not going to say it. But yeah, no, I think Tana Merryweather, that character. I think that character just, you know, she's one of the random might have been victims of Cersei.
Yeah, she's an opportunist who took advantage of the idea of power and thought that she was able to get it by lying about Tyrion being the one to.
You could compare her to Shay like that, you know. You could see her in the same light as Shay, where like Shay refused to get out while the getting was good, and Tana did.
It's a little fishy that she just, as soon as this party arrives, she goes right to Cersei and starts plotting with her, which it makes me wonder, you know.
I mean, Cersei's a very approachable person.
Does she have ulterior purposes that are not necessarily in Cersei's best interests?
I'd have to reread exactly what happens in that plot, but like,
it's very fishy to me. It seems like anyone other than Cersei would be kind of suspicious that this random person comes up to you and says, "Hey, I'm your best friend. I'm going to start plotting with you." I mean, I find it a little odd if some total stranger waltzed up to me and did that.
It's, you know, it's just, I mean, maybe. But, you know, it's... You know, she's just trying to play the power game. And, you know, she thinks that she can, like, get in with Cersei because Cersei's, like, you know, vulnerable and, you know, trying to look for allies because the Tyrells are taking over the court because Cersei's actually correct that the Tyrells are scum trying to take over the court. And, you know, she thinks she can be in with them, and then it turns out that Cersei's like a maniac, and she you know, and she just kind of gets caught up in the insanity for a little bit.
Yeah, could be. Could well be. Oh, and I think Preston Jacobs had a theory that they were all Aegon supporters. I think they were. I think if I remember correctly, he had a whole bunch of family connections and stuff with the Merryweathers, with people who are Aegon supporters or something like that. Or am I making that up? I'm pretty sure.
No, yeah, you are correct. I watched that series because I actually do like Tana Merryweather as a character.
Oh yeah, this is fine.
Oh yeah.
Character, and I was interested as soon as he brought that up. And I think that this was still in his. George has got to have some kind of master plan and just kind of comes up with the theories. But it seems as though he's kind of become black-pilled. Regards to A Song of Ice and Fire, he's kind of gone over it more and more with the fine-tooth comb.
It was going to happen eventually.
Yeah, he's going to the other extreme, maybe.
Yeah, because he's kind of like. Because I do think that Preston Jacobs has a little bit of apophenia, and specifically Freudian apophenia, or at least he sees Freudian stuff everywhere in A Song of Ice and Fire. I don't think that George is thinking about Morning Wood when he calls Arthur Dane the Sword of the Morning. That it's a morning erection joke. Or
No,
the giant's lance is a dick.
The veil is a riot.
Come on.
No, really, he thinks the giant's lance, covered in clouds, is a
symbol. It's a symbolic. I know. Yeah, I get it.
He likes. Also, he finds it amusing talking about that sort of thing.
Yeah.
No, it entertains him.
Yeah, he thinks it's intentional on George's part that it's a dick. That it's littered with dick jokes.
Well,
maybe that's a holdover from.
Gurm is pretty dirty.
He is, but I don't know if
like the mountains, the physical geography of the setting being that, I think is a little extreme. That's a little extreme.
Or
Dick and George's dick jokes are Dick and Manwoody, right? That's his dick jokes, okay?
Dick and Manwoody, yeah.
Or, son of the Lord, heir to Kingsgrave. One of the primary seats in all of Dorne, guards the Prince's Pass.
Yeah, or who was something shit? Something shit.
Well, there's Chet, and then there's Thor and Smallwood, who still to this day has one of the coolest deaths in all of the series.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of there's stuff like that. So
and then there's but no, I feel like Cersei is, she doesn't need anyone else's help to be suffering.
Yeah. Let me think. What are some other things that we're ultimately really just talking a lot about the dropped plots of A Song of Ice and Fire.
Yeah, I think a lot of the reason that they are dropped is because he doesn't have a unifying theme.
Yeah, that's accurate.
The whole Old Town thing is honestly, we know we briefly talked about the mission thing, but Old Town, does anyone want to go to Old Town besides Euron? Sam finally fucking gets there, and Marwyn, who is his own whole barrel of problems, is also just immediately wants to leave.
Yeah.
That's honestly, if you want to talk about a bad potential plot. I think Marwyn and Sam going to Daenerys would also be like terrible. I think that would be a huge mistake.
What would be a huge mistake with Daenerys? Sorry, I didn't catch.
Marwyn and like Marwyn the Mage and Sam, like going on their own travel log to Daenerys would also be a mistake.
I don't think they're doing that.
I don't think they're doing. I mean, he's trying to do that. What I hope is going to happen is that Euron is going to intercept them and fuck them up.
Ooh.
Or at least they'll get caught up in that whole nonsense.
Yeah.
Because like I can't see how that's a good. It's just like that's just bloat. Like to me, that's that's just all bloat. Euron is like a character that I have like a lot of affinity for. Like I do, and like the thing is that like
he's basically he's basically the Westerosi equivalent of like Morgoth or Sauron in a lot of ways.
He kind of is, but the reason I do like him a lot is that I actually like him for the same reasons I like Stannis, where the story starts to like work with him again, right? Like he makes the stories come together. He makes the magical plot and the political plot come together around him in a way that starts to make sense, right?
Yeah,
and that's a good thing. That's we need that synthesis in the story.
Yeah, because he's clearly this absolutely insane sorcerer king.
Yes.
Who, though he could also, what do you think of the idea that Euron's just a fraud and that he's just kind of making the he's just throwing the Ironborn away.
I mean
by through his poisoned gifts, I guess.
I mean him ruining his people, the Ironborn, which again, like, oh no, what a loss!
It's ruined.
But like that, that doesn't. I mean that goes without saying. He is doing that, right? He is. He doesn't care about the Ironborn at all. So he's totally insincere on that front. The idea that he's like faking it, to me, that again, like it kind of like. It misses like the point. The point is, like, don't get me wrong, he may succeed, he may totally fail. The point is not his competence, his capabilities, or at least the thing that interests me isn't his capabilities. It's the scope of his ambition, right? So this is something I've talked about before, or I've mentioned it like on Reddit and stuff, like where Euron is an upgrade on Tywin Lannister in terms of his ability, because Tywin Lannister was just a bully, right? He was just a thug. He was just a gangster who wanted everyone, who cared way too much what everyone thought about him, and desperately wanted to win the game that everyone else was playing. Euron,
I think it was put. I think there's actually a line from the show that I think is actually good, where Robert says to Cersei, "Your father wants to own the world." Yes. That's actually a pretty accurate summation of what Tywin Lannister wants.
He does. Yes, it does actually.
Yeah, very Lannister-esque.
Exactly, right? Whereas Euron is actually thinking beyond the game, right? Like Euron is actually thinking outside the box, because he's making the moral judgment, the correct quote-unquote moral judgment, that if I can like kill people, if I can like do these horrifically immoral things that I do, when he does like, obviously we know he does horrifically immoral things. Yeah, I can like do anything.
Sexually assaulting his brother's wife.
Yeah, exactly. Getting his brother to kill his own wife, like it's like the man is like deeply depraved. The man is like deeply evil, right? The difference though between
evil.
Wait, what?
He's deeply depraved and evil.
Exactly. The difference though between someone like him and someone like, say, Gregor Clegane is that Gregor Clegane is just a brute, right? He's just doing it because, it's what pleases him in the moment, right?
As well as he seems to suffer from horrible headaches, has a hair trigger temper.
Oh
due
no!
to-
How bad we should feel for him.
Well, I know, but it's
I
like
know.
he seems to have a hair trigger temper because and is
Yeah, no,
a
he's
brutal
just-
psychopath because
he's-
of his headaches and his giantism.
Yeah, he's just impulsive, right? Euron, though, his cruelty seems to be an exercise in Prometheanism, for lack of a better term, right? His transgressions are an exercise in imposing his will on reality. If I can commit gross, wait, what?
Prometheanism. I've never heard that phrase. Please elaborate.
And the Prometheanism, like I'm using it a little incorrectly. Admittedly, I'm using it a little harshly. Prometheanism, in the sense that like humanity can seize its own sort of like cosmological destiny, right?
To attain godhood.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the
Apotheosis.
more intense form of it, right? Right, like
Apotheosis.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, like it's that mankind can become like the masters of the universe, right? And again, like this is why I like Varys so much. Though, I'm accusing Varys. Be very clear with this, right? Earlier, I was accusing Varys of the same kind of things, right? He wants to be the master of reality. The difference is that Varys is like an anti-magic guy, so he's trying to do it in like completely mundane terms, right? He's trying to become the master of reality by manipulating the truth. Euron wants to become the master of reality by actually doing magic shit.
What if Varys is lying about disliking magic?
I think that serves no narrative purpose.
Well, it's just because there's a lot of evidence that he uses glamours as part of his disguise.
I don't buy that. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I won't. I don't quite buy into that. I think it's.
Okay.
I think that's just Varys being good at what he does, and I think that it makes sense. I think his character, as it's presented to us, I have no reason to doubt that part of his motivation, because he is. Because think about this, he is obsessed. Not that's too strong of a word, right? But he is focused on the subordination of reality to his designs, and that means that magic, which allows you to like transcend these things, like he doesn't want to counter it. He wants to destroy it. It's part of the reason he doesn't like Stannis, right? He doesn't like that he's shacking up with Melisandre, right? He does not want these fantastical things interfering with his rational, quote unquote, designs. And that's the thing about Euron, right? Like Euron is trying to become like a god. He is, and he understands. Like Tywin thinks that him being the biggest, baddest dude in the block, who's also willing to cheat to win, means that he's just the biggest. He's the best guy in Westeros, right? Euron knows that being able to cheat means you can cheat anything. You can cheat reality itself. You can become a god. You can become, like Cthulhu man.
That would never occur to Tywin.
No, he would.
It's not in his worldview.
No, that's part of the point. It wouldn't occur to Varys either. Or actually, no, right. I'm sorry, what?
They just think that their conception is the Iron Throne is the highest power that you can get.
Exactly. They're mundane thinkers.
Yeah, basically it's sinew and steel and gold are the only like power that or even the illusion of power are the things that are actually powerful. They don't think about magic as being the ability to take power in this day and age.
Exactly, and they have no cause, and because they're very morally nihilistic, they have no moral conception of it as well, which is where Euron becomes interesting. Because again, it's not merely that he's able to act with power; it's that he can act immorally. It's his what empowers him, what enables him psychologically, is that he can transgress morally. Right? I can murder my brothers. That means I can do anything.
Has Tywin ever commented on anything magical related or even on the rumors about dragons or anything like that at all in the entire story? Does anyone ever bring that up to him? Does he ever react to that?
I think the best way to actually think about it is it's either Cersei or Jamie, and I suppose it's appropriate that I'm mixing them up. They talk about Tywin's view on love, like you can't fight with it, you can't eat it, you can't do anything with it, right? And that sort of like anti-romanticism, I think, speaks to how he might view magic, right? He has no interest in these kind of things. He's no like part of, again, like Euron like isn't just like, I mean, he's a maniac obviously, like, but when he talks about like leaping from tall windows, he takes on this very like poetic and we might say romantic, for lack of a better term, like air about him. And you could never imagine someone like Tywin Lannister acting that way. You know?
Yeah.
I think, yeah, it's.
But yes, that is why I like Euron so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's very much going for a dark apotheosis and become it. Like he's saying, I don't need to want to be king. I want to be a god.
Exactly.
And it kind of is the next evolution of like villainy, where he just says,
Yes.
"Now the gods are not real. If they if they are, they don't care."
Exactly. Right. He's the next level of villainy in the story.
Yeah. And I think another thing is it's interesting to kind of consider like the karmic justice throughout the Song of Ice and Fire, where Robert Baratheon is killed by a boar when he himself has kind of lived like a pig for the past 16 years.
Nice.
And is even like gored in the crotch, which is kind of where he and his stomach.
Yep.
Both of which are his main vices.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then Tywin dies on the toilet, humiliated, and his legacy is a stinking concept.
Yes. Oh yeah,
So
I mean, my dream ending to the series, and this is, I shouldn't say it like that, because this would be like my if I could have it like stupid Warhammer 40K like cool action sequence style, would be like it's like a 4-way at the Trident between like you have like Stannis Jon, then you have like Arya, you have like Sansa Littlefinger, and then you have like Euron with like Sam in tow, acting as the POV there, and then you have like either like Aegon and Varys, or like Daenerys, like Daenerys after killing Aegon and Varys and Tyrion, and like it's like a 4-way at the Trident.
So Euron is kind of, there's a parallel to Bran. If Bran is like some kind of god king, then there's a kind of a parallel to Euron wants to be a kind of a dark parallel to what Ron is tending towards.
Oh, I mean, I think so. Yeah. I mean,
that thought just hopped into my head right now.
I mean, Euron wants to be, he seemingly I mean, like it is paralleled with, we see it with his brother, and we see it in the Forsaken, right? He doesn't, and again, the interesting thing about it is that he consciously understands the implications of what he's doing, right? He wants people to worship him, right? He wants to be the thing that you're afraid of. He wants to be the thing that really rules, right? So, he is someone who is not merely gonna he's not gonna be like a Robert Baratheon, where like he just like gets the throne, he just like fucks around and like does whatever. Like, he is very interested in your subjugation. Yeah, that's the kind of person he is.
Tabularian.
Can you see that?
Kind of. What is it? I see the Quran. I see your plant.
Oh, but no, I'm showing.
Hold it up more. See higher. Yeah, wait.
You're
You're almost good.
A little
Yeah,
bit.
that's up to yeah.
There. Be the thing in the wood that terrifies the local village.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. That's pretty good, actually.
I got that. There's a shop. There's a restaurant here.
No, that's the thing, right? And that's the thing, like that's part of Euron being a bully, like he is, right? He wants to be that. Like that was a really good magnet or whatever. Right?
Yeah, he wants to be the thing that men are scared of, but he wants to have them be scared of him on multiple different levels. Tywin just kind of puts fear into people based on what he can do to their bodies, but Euron does terrible things to the mind and the body.
Exactly. Yeah, man, like part of Tywin's problem is that he can't like think. Part of Tywin's limitations, and they're okay as limitations because one, he never loses his effectiveness as a villain because he never loses his ability to threaten the protagonists because he does kill them, and two, it works because it falls in line with like his conception, his cynical view of the world, right? Tywin can't think like Euron thinks. He doesn't have the imagination to think like Euron thinks, but Euron does. And so he sees, like, he's seizing the moment. Like, Euron is like seizing the moment totally. And again, that's why I like him for the same reason like Stannis. He is bringing the themes of the story together, right? I'm king. I'm God. I can do anything. He's great. I think Euron is very cool. I think he's actually I wish there was more of him. I think he should have been in the Clash of Kings. I think there should have been an epilogue to Clash of Kings, and I think he should have been in that epilogue.
Yeah, that would have been really great. It would have, yeah.
Also, Dark Horse. By the way, we're never going to get the Wins of Winter, but my Dark Horse prediction, literal Dark Horse prediction for like the prologue character is I think it's Calpono. It's whoever Daenerys has met at the end. It's whoever like comes to Daenerys at the end of A Dance with Dragons, because she's on Drogon at that point, and the P of the prologue is just going to be like her talking with the guy and then killing him. So that's my Dark Horse candidate. Obviously, my Dark Horse candidate for the epilogue is going to be Shireen or Stannis.
Oh, okay. And
also like
Shireen to bring Jon back,
or to like, because my theory is that like if Stannis is going to die, which he almost certainly is, he's going to get besieged in Winterfell. He's going to be trapped. He's going to be desperate. It's going to be his only chance. But that's another thing, right? Like a lot of like is Martin going to go back on Stannis burning Shireen? Is he going to do like a fake out? Because I can imagine how you might fake that out. I can even imagine a way to do it where it doesn't happen the way we think it's going to happen. But like, even I think that's kind of a cop out. Oof. But anyway, I don't know. Is there any other points of interest you wanted to go over?
It would have to be something pretty extreme to get Stannis to murder his only heir when he's supposedly claiming the Iron Throne. And hey, I don't have any heirs.
I agree.
Granted, there's a problem with Daenerys too. Who's going to be her heir?
Yeah.
But to be fair, she's only like a teenager at this time. So, but Stannis, you would think, would have thought about that.
I think also that he might have what was being said by Valerian. You do realize that your camera is on, right?
What is it? Did you see me just now?
Yes.
Oh, I thought I turned it off. Oh, I forgot I had it on. Well, luckily we didn't see anything too revealing.
Yeah, we just saw your tummy, your tummy, a little bit of your
Oh,
tummy. Don't worry.
that was yeah. Well, it could have been worse, I guess, but it was not ideal.
Sorry. I thought about saying something, but I was like, is it being deliberate?
Yeah, I'm making a statement on the deeper themes of the story.
Indeed. Um, I look forward to your appearance in the A Song of Ice and Fire porn parody.
Well, it'll be die streaming. It'll be alright.
Okay. Let me think.
Okay, I'm not visible now. Okay, good.
You're not visible. Don't worry.
That's good. We would not want me to be visible at the moment.
Yeah, probably not. So let's kind of. I think also like one other thing is the theory crafting using the parallelisms and repeats within the history. Is that intentional or lazy, do we think?
Give me an example. Because my knee-jerk reaction is to say that that's lazy.
Yeah, that's also my knee-jerk reaction as well. That's my immediate reaction is to say it's a little bit lazy. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's a little lazy. But I mean, suppose it depends if there's some deeper theme to the parallel, then maybe. But if it's just, Rogar Baratheon is a lot like Robert Baratheon, they're both whatever. Or if it's just, the guy in charge of the Eyrie when the Targaryens came was a kid. Now the guy in charge of the Arryns is a kid. If it's just that, then maybe a little lazy. But if they're actually thematic echoes or rhyming involved, then there might be some value to that.
The main ones that you asked for an example. The main ones I can come up with are stuff like the parallels between Rhaenyra and Cersei. Parallels between the baby swap of Arya and her sister. I can't remember her sister's name off the top of my head.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I get that.
Savage Sam Tarly being almost a drastic reversal of the Sam Tarly from the series.
Mm-hmm. Well, the Rhaenyra, so the Sam one is just like a goof, right? Like that's just like that's just goof.
Like
and I'm not saying that in a bad way. Yeah,
it's a joke.
Yeah,
it's like the Muppets, the Muppet Tullys.
Exactly. Well, yeah, I'm sorry, the Tarly one. I apologize. The Savage Sam Tarly one, right? The Tully, the Muppet characters in the Dance of the Dragons. I actually really like that gag. Believe it or not.
I think it's funny too.
I think it's a perfectly good joke. Like I can't stand people need to be able to have a joke sometimes. I do despise the fact that they're children beating up adults, but that's a different matter entirely. The Rhaenyra Cersei parallels are really interesting to me because I'll be the first one to say that I think that the Rhaenyra situation is actually a better version of the Cersei situation because it's more interesting. Because her kids are way better than Cersei's kids. Granted, this is really just saying that they're better than Joffrey.
And she does have legitimacy, which Cersei.
Well, I am like the biggest anti-black. Black being the faction in this fictional universe that corresponds to Rhaenyra, not anything else.
Anti-Rhaenyra faction. But at least she's
a Targaryen, though. That's all I meant.
Well, yes, I know. I'm being a little, but yeah, I mean, even, even saying this as the most harshest critic of Rhaenyra there could be, I think. I think it is a better situation than the Cersei situation because it's more interesting, right? It's more interesting that they're better people. because part of, and I've said this before, part of the problem, if there's any problem with the main plot, the plot of the actual series, is that Joffrey's like too shitty, right? He's almost too shitty of a kid. Like, it would be way more interesting if Joffrey was actually like a good kid.
Yeah, I think there's kind of a joke that George R. R. Martin says with, you kind of are somewhat sympathetic to a kid dying, but then you see people like Jeremy Johns and other people online like yelling, "Oh my gosh, Santa came! He came! The dick is dead!"
Oh no, my best friend, he is exactly the same way. It's like that the purple weddings happen. He's like, yes. I mean, my problem with the scene isn't exactly. I mean, my problem with the scene is that it's not any kind of like true catharsis. It's not any kind of justice, right? It is their like false allies like murdering him, right? And again, this is the Tyrells acting like the Tyrells. Like, they're scum. I hate the Tyrells. But yeah, no, like, I'm not gonna like cry a river over Joffrey. But it would have been interesting if he was a better kid, because then it actually throws into like it highlights, it underscores really what the answer is, what the real question is. Like, is peace worth the truth? Is it worth the truth? And, I do think that is where you can have God King Bran enter the picture and have the final confrontation be between Jon and either like a possessed Bran or a Bran that's become like shell-shocked and jaded because he's been doing time travel shit or whatever. And you can have a kind of conflict between those two characters and have it be like, by what means are people ruled? In what mode of thought should leaders operate? And the villain in that context is the guy who thinks that people should be lied to and manipulated. Are you team Rorschach or are you team Ozymandias? And I know what team I am.
Yeah, it's interesting where Ozymandias wants this kind of long-term peace, and whereas Rorschach is kind of going to lead to destabilization and chaos.
I know. I like Watchmen a lot, but you don't do what Ozymandias.
I don't know how. Yeah, I was just commenting because I don't know how familiar Balerion is with Watchmen, so I was just covering my bases.
That's right. I'm going way off with this reference.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I didn't get that. Sorry. Ozymandias, as far as I know, is look at my works that you're mighty in despair.
Oh, yeah. Long story short is like, are you willing to like do a small evil and manipulate everyone with it, or do you tell the truth? And consequences be damned. And I am in the latter category. You do not rule by lies. You do not rule by lies.
I hate it when that happens.
I know, but that's life.
Yeah. Any other topics that we wanted to discuss? Because we covered a lot of them, from George's problem with mystery boxing throughout A Song of Ice and Fire, his world building being contradictory, where he changes his mind fairly frequently on at least twice in terms of knighthood and with how the warden system works.
Yeah, that was all really lame. There's his general like weak world building in general. Like Essos kind of sucks, right? We can go. I think one of the things that can't be emphasized enough is how, and I know we brought this up earlier, but how awful awful Daenerys' antagonists are. Like, I think that's actually one of the, like, if there's like actually like, I think I'm debating this. I think that might be the worst thing in the books. I'm trying to think if there's anything worse, like as like a like that exists at such like a large scale. Because like this is a whole like serious plot arc that is just like it's already problematic in how it's like fitting into the rest of the narrative, and on top of that, it has like no antagonists.
Yeah. I guess it's kind of like he's kind of building up to eventually being the fight going up against Euron. One thing that actually did occur to me was how much of the original outline, because it seems like I watched a guy named Crusader Chris who was like, he kind of matched up some of the bits of the original outline to what's going to happen, as well as like kind of plotted out a little bit of it, which I think is possibly an interesting theorizing to go with. But the problem is he clearly has mystery box Starfall and doesn't know how to do it, because in one of the original summaries that has been found regarding Feast for Crows, that Daenerys was going to go to Starfall and find out the secrets of the Targaryens with Barristan.
Jesus, Starfall, yeah. The Danes are one of like the interesting like groups, because the Danes really fell off, right?
Apparently, the Danes were meant to be fairly significant, but then next to nothing was done with them.
Yeah, exactly. They are, yes, I agree with that completely. They're not important at all to the story. I mean, I like their place in the story, but they're not like the idea that like Daenerys or any character should go to Starfall to do anything of any significance is ridiculous. You know, so
Yeah.
that's just me. I think that
Yeah. There's also kind of like the whole mystery boxing the Tower of Joy thing, as well as the Shara Dane herself, where there's a bunch of red herrings thrown in about Ashara Dane and Ned Stark. It's just kind of interesting, and also like the whole. Do we think? I'm sorry.
Wait, did somebody just say something in the comments?
Yeah. Do we think George got too fat and that his fingers can now get multiple keys at a time?
That's funny because how blunt it is.
Wouldn't be a riot if he did get the Winds of Winter, but it was all gibberish.
Oh, it's funny. It's got like typos every other page. That's really good.
That is so
It was all
funny.
XXXQQs.
Oh, it's like Homer in the fucking episode of The Simpsons.
And that would fit because George uses a crappy laptop from what the early 2000s.
Is it even a laptop, or is it a full-on old-style PC?
Sorry, but crappy computer. Sorry.
I was only present. It was like a shitty computer,
like an old, really crappy.
Yeah, that's why he can't. That's why he can't finish.
I mean, like, it's good. I mean, like, I don't even know that would bother me as much as, like, I'd rather it be something weird like that, when instead of like him being unable to reconcile his like themes. It's like, how do you not know what you want to write about? Like okay, I shouldn't say it like that, but like, how do you not have the command over your own mind and thought processes enough that you can at least say something coherent, right? In like a moral sense, right? And you can do like, and he can do the, he can just do the inverse, right? He could just say like, oh no, people should like bow down to the Lannisters because the imposition of order is more important than anything else, right? And just completely fuck, I could just go fuck myself with my like moralizing bullshit right now. But like, at least there'd be something. Like, make a decision.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just think it's just kind of rough. Maybe George is afraid of getting hacked, which is probably a reasonable fear. But just have an actual good computer that isn't connected to Wi-Fi. If it isn't connected to Wi-Fi, there isn't really much anybody can do about it.
Yeah, I mean, like
or even just use dictation since he likes talking. And he's able to go on and on about things. But the funny thing is, he kind of even like the knighting ceremony doesn't make sense. I think Preston Jacobs, Trey the Explainer had a whole crash out one time about that.
Yeah, because he left out like almost half of them. Even if you ignore the stranger, he left out like two of them.
Like Smith. You left out the Smith
and the maiden, I think.
Well, here's the maiden. He mentions the warrior. Here's the father, the warrior, the maiden, and the mother. Those are the ones.
Okay, the crone is the other one he left out. I'm sorry, not the maiden. The crone. The Smith and the crone are the ones he left out. The stranger.
In fairness, if I'm remembering correctly, I think the only time we hear the full knight's oath is in the Knight of the Seven Kingdoms.
Yeah, the hedge knife, but we don't actually hear the whole thing. We don't actually.
We don't hear the whole thing. So, like, I think the implication there is that like the other gods was not. We just didn't hear the whole oath.
Well, the thing is, George, and actually a recent AMA just said somebody just said that the name of the warrior, Father, I charge you to be just, and in the name of the warrior, I you to defend, and the weak. And then he said, "Oh, you forgot the maiden to protect all women," and then didn't correct him with any of the rest of it.
Yeah. So
it's like George is willing to reveal that bit, but apparently the Smith, the stranger, and the crone are completely forgotten, which is funny.
I know.
But yeah, I think that kind of covers a lot of it. I don't know what exactly he's doing really with like the histories and with Dunk and Egg. With Dunk and Egg, probably what the show is just going to be the thing that happens, because he's never going to finish the Dunk and Egg books. But at least we know where it's going toward.
Yeah, I mean, like see to me what happens at Summerhall, which I think is what you're getting at, is
pretty obvious.
Yeah, I mean that's
something super dark. Like they were going to sacrifice Rhaella and Rhaegar in order to birth dragons, and Dunk said, "No, that's not happening."
Oh yeah. That's there. You were talking about the one about Egg trying to hatch dragons by human sacrifice, right?
Yeah, and it seemed like George thought it was super obscure because he was like, "Oh, what made you think of that?" And it's like, it's really obvious you put it in the book, George.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously it burned. It's very obvious that he was doing something and it burnt the city down. It burnt the castle down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
something. So it involved fire and probably wildfire.
Yeah. To me, the interesting thing about
and he does, and there are comments about Aegon lamenting that if he had dragons, he could accomplish the reforms that he wanted to bring to pass. That ended up being undone by Tywin Lannister because Tywin doesn't care about people.
Exactly. But to me, the interesting thing there is that
Balerion, then Scorpio, if that's okay. And
I was going to say was Egg. You'd have to, if you have huge, big. You have character. Could you call it an arc or more like a leap across a chasm to turn egg into someone who's going to go around sacrificing people. That's all I was going to say.
Well, I agree. I get that. I mean, to me, I think it. Like I'm wrong. It's a very big stretch for egg, but to me, it speaks to again the larger things about like the Targaryens being autocrats and god kings, right? And we can sit here and say, well, yeah, it's a good thing for Aegon to try to, again, ignoring the human sacrifice part. We could say, oh, well, it's a good thing that Aegon is trying to get dragons back because he's trying to help the small folk, but like he's also trying to, like ignoring the fact that Martin's, that Martin land is like the world of where every noble is like this complete, mini tyrant, and that like. Oh, we're in like Hollywood Middle Ages where no one has any rights and there's no conception of rights, which again probably feeds into how he wrote the Targaryens because he thought that, oh, it's a good thing. If there are no rights, then the autocrats who just fix everything are fine. But no, the Middle Ages had understood the concept of rights. And, but, in the concept of the story, Aegon the Fifth is trying to resurrect his family's, they're unchecked power, and is that actually a good thing? I don't think so.
Yeah, I guess the thing is there needs to be some kind of check to the power of the nobility, because at the moment the power of the nobility have apparently impunity because he can't. Because they are not even letting his reforms go through, so there has to be some other way of doing that, and it's really tricky to find a way to do it. And I guess the quick and easy way is to get dragons, but then of course that leaves the other causes a different problem.
The check of the power of nobility can't be that like the installation of the God Emperor. Like it can't be the answer.
Yeah.
Now the thing is that judging by how George wrote Jaehaerys and judging by how he might have King Bran be a good thing, maybe George does think that's the answer, but that's repugnant. Anyway, but that's just me.
Well, I think that we've kind of talked a lot about it. We
exhaust ourselves. We don't have to drag this out unnecessarily.
All right, I think that covers everything.
Yep.
George, I think like there's a lot of good things within George, but I think the problem is it's kind of a TV writer where, and all of the downfalls of a lot of TV where very rarely do they have satisfying endings, or that they have conclusions that are built up to. It's kind of an anomaly when that happens.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably where this whole thing is coming from, as well as just the fact that kind of in order to end it in a relatively satisfying fashion, he has to steer back into being traditional fantasy, unless he wants to go like full nihilistic ending.
Exactly. He has to decide whether he's something that he can be either a classic fantasy, like there is a correct order, quote unquote, to the universe, and the heroes are the ones who stick to it. He can go full on like weird, pretentious technocrat boomer, or he can go just like nihilism. And those are his options.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't even begrudge him picking any of them. Like, you can do that, but like, just pick one.
Just pick something and actually go with it. But he seems to be wishy-washy about it. Like he keeps slaloming back and forth.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, I think that we are going to consider that good. Thank you, everybody, for coming. We have appreciated talking. This is a good topic.
Absolutely.
And we will see you guys on the next one. I think that we probably won't do anything next week due to it being my birthday. and Christmas weekend, Christmas and New Year's weekend.
Yeah, ramp it up to
But
Christmas.
I think that we will. Let me see. When does Night of the Seven Kingdoms release? Okay, so January 18th. So it may take a little bit. Okay, so we'll have a stream in between now and the release of the Night of the Seven Kingdoms. But next week there probably won't be anything since I'm gonna be busy with my birthday. So we will have to see you guys later. Adios.